we both managed to live a relatively usual life.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learning Spanish. I'm working. She's training, talking about different things other than the war.
Yes.
So
Yes, very good. Need a break from that.
yeah. I see that very few people can live their life as if nothing happens. No, it is very difficult, but it helps much to
Yes.
survive.
For sure. And there's two things here. There is the fact and truth that nothing has happened. You have your
Yeah.
house, you have your home, you have your
Yeah.
food, you have your work, you have your internet. That's
Yeah.
all usual. Yes.
Yeah.
What's added and not usual is the sirens and the bombing and the knowledge that there's a Russian army coming
Yeah.
your way. And so it's the ultimate to be in the now, isn't it? To be,
Yeah.
this is what is now. I deal with what is now. The mind will say, yeah, but, yeah, but. And so it's an excellent practice to say, but the reality is this. This is the reality. You could sit through this war, possibly, in the exact same way. You don't lose power, you don't get hit,
Yeah.
and the war finally ends, right? And for you, it was day by day by day. This is what is, this is what is, this is what is. And that's what people have a hard time understanding, because most people would be in their minds. Oh no,
Yeah.
oh no, no. Okay. And not using their mind the way you're using it. And this will cause stress and distress and actions that aren't necessarily safe.
As I noticed, many people even do not know how to go meta, to look at themselves from the outside.
Yeah.
They live in their mind all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost. Not possible to be 100%,
Yeah.
but almost, because they are in reality. Their reality is here. There's many people just like you. They have power, they have food, they have the internet, they have their usual life. But they never even, let's say, had awareness of it for the most part. They were often in the head of the problems and the things that weren't real. They haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is the probable majority. I don't know. I haven't done a survey. But, you know, I was listening to a message Muji put out, and he put it out because people were sending him messages. And the majority of his message was, don't fear, don't panic, because he's getting these messages and people ask this very, important question. How do you not fear? How do you not fear? I'm actually going to do a video, I think, on that and go to answer that, to try and help. And it was sort of a question last night on the webinar. How do you not do something when you don't even know how you're doing it? So it's not, how do I not do something? It's, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing? And so I can stop doing it. But there's this idea that because of something that happens on the outside, I must fear on the inside. And that was in the webinar last night. And it's not true. You actually don't have to. And when we discover that, that is the peace beyond all reason, logical reason, understanding. And that's because it's the peace, not of the mind, it's the peace of yourself, peace of your being. and it is always available, no matter what happens.
You say that it is possible not to fear even when the war is around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because fear is something you're doing. When you understand what you're doing, you see and you recognize what you're doing, you can stop doing it. It was like the time when I was on freezing rain with my car and another car was spinning in front of me. Okay. And this was a long time ago, before I knew anything about all this. And the last thought I had was, we can't both lose control. Keep control. And I went into the most utter peace and stillness I've ever known until then. All of my attention was on the steering wheel, my clutch on my foot, my gear in my hand, complete silence, and visually watching the front end of that car every time I came close to see how close we were, to see how much I could press on the brake without losing control and hitting, you know. And this car went around and around and around. And as it went around and around, all of a sudden this incredible, deep, blissful peace overcame me. I get shivers talking about it now. I'd never experienced anything like it. I was in complete control. And then the car went into the other lane and kept spinning. And I just kept watching because I knew the danger wasn't over. I didn't have the thought, but I knew. Still no thought. And then it finally regained control and kept going. And after it left, mind came back online and said, he didn't even stop. I could have been killed. All of a sudden, panic attack, and I couldn't drive.
Yeah.
And I was perfectly safe. But I couldn't drive anymore, and I was hyperventilating. I was afraid, and I had to pull over. and even pulling over was a trick. I pulled over, and I was astounded how I'm afraid now, and I wasn't afraid then. I'd never seen that before. Didn't think that was possible. Like everybody else, I thought if there's danger, you're going to be afraid. Utter stillness, incredible. You know, but I thought, well, I didn't want to panic then. If I'd panicked then, if I couldn't drive, I'd probably be dead now. Right? So the I didn't want to panic then is my authority. That overrode everything.
Yeah.
I must be still. And so I was. I said so. I didn't have to say so. I'm sure there's many people who didn't say so and they didn't make it. You know, after it happened, I still heard the mind. I heard things like, you should call somebody. And I went, why? To tell them I'm okay? To tell them nothing happened?
Yeah.
Why am I going to call somebody, right? But then I did. I was more unconscious then, and I called somebody. I'm like, oh my God, I was nearly killed, but nearly isn't real. And
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't even make any sense. And I got them all scared, you know, got them all riled up. And I came back down eventually, and that lesson stuck. Like, how is it you can be so not just okay, but actually almost, well, joyful, blissful in a way that I have never experienced, that I can't describe. It's because this is available all the time. It is our being. We are untouchable. Whatever happens to the body, is not what we are. It's immovable, it's eternal, permanent.
Yeah. I've heard a story told by a soldier, a Ukrainian soldier, who was a soldier in 2014 when this all began. He said that he was under bombing and was sure that he will die. And at this moment, when bomb dropped, explosions around, and he said he had felt complete stillness and as if a very big weight disappeared.
Yes, yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Clearly, he survived to tell the story.
Yeah, he survived. He now a soldier again.
You know, it reminds me of Adyashanti. I don't know if you know him. I've spoken about him. Adyashanti. He sat. He used to be a competitive cyclist. He was very intense, and then he took up sitting, very intense with his sitting. You know, on a competitive, not with others, but just himself kind of way. And he had at one point a big fear arise. And it was the fear of, you know, the idea of my death.
Yeah.
And, you know, that I need to die to know the truth. And he said, well, if that's what it takes, okay. And that was his big breakthrough moment. He gave that up, which is really giving up the mental me, the I, me, mind. Gave the mind up. And of course, he didn't die, but he saw the truth of himself. We don't need to be in a war zone.
Yeah.
To do this. But if you are in a war zone, do this. So it is this massive, it's beyond massive stillness that we are and have available that is really the way. The stillness beyond comprehension. This stillness that surpasses all understanding. Even war can't touch it. War is nothing to it.
Catch glimpses of this stillness. I frequently catch them when mind stops and you see something you just took it about, something, maybe this is God.
Yes. Yes. It appears like God.
Yeah.
Until you realize what you are.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yes. It appears so big. And that's why we're drawn. It's so big. And it's so beautiful, so perfect.
I adore nature very much. I don't know why, but I feel something in it.
Yeah. It's God or the self or the absolute. This stillness, you've heard the term absolute.
Yeah.
This stillness, that's the absolute. So there's the manifest, which is the relative, the appearance, the experience, which is not other than the absolute. You know, the absolute is, we could say, the ground for that to happen. It's the absolute reality. It's the absolute self, we could say. Nothing can go there because it already is. No thought. Nothing can, it's like a brick wall or a diamond, or, you know, everything else that moves and changes is like melted butter, you know, not even compared to it. Diamond hard reality. And it's known simultaneously with the self because it is also the self. And so if you're drawn to the stillness, this is a very good sign.
Yeah.
It's a very good thing to pursue. I felt it to be love, and I was drawn to love, which drew me to it, which I had no words for it, so I would call it God, which turned out to be me, which was really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what happened. Yeah. So follow it.
As I see now, these words, God, absolute awareness, I, love, are all synonyms.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
I don't understand why, but something inside me is sure that it is true.
Yes, for sure. Synonyms, they're pointers to the same thing. They're words.
Yeah.
Point
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the self is said to be existence, consciousness, bliss. All three look like three, but it's one. These
Yeah.
are aspects, you know, aspects of the same thing. Aspects meaning like a comb, you know, has 4 spikes, but is one. Yeah. And that's the paradox that we love.
As far as fear is concerned, I'd like to tell you my story with my fear. My problem was fear, but problem was fear of fear.
Yes.
Because real man must not fear. It must save the world alone. So yeah, so my first step was allow myself to fear. Just allow, just accept that I can fear.
Okay.
Yeah. First step was this one, that it is normal to be afraid of something.
Okay.
But now I see that it is possible not to fear at all.
Yes. Okay. Very good. This was brought up on last night's webinar, and someone said it's normal, which means what? It means we have to. If we don't, there's something abnormal, right? On the webinar last night, somebody said, I want to have all human emotions. Like if I don't have one human emotion, that's abnormal. That means I'm not normal. That means there's something wrong with me, right?
Yeah.
And that just causes more mental suffering, right? And so it may be common to be afraid, but as you said, it's possible to not be afraid. And just because it's common to be afraid, doesn't mean we have to be afraid. Doesn't mean it's useful to be afraid. Doesn't mean it's healthy to be afraid. When we say it's normal, we say, I want to be normal. I don't want to be special. I don't want to be different. Why not rise above what is common, what we consider normal? Why not rise above what is common and find out what is possible for a human being? Everybody who sits with normal gets average, gets normal understanding of the world, does not go beyond their worldview, does not realize they're not the mind, does not realize they're not what they think they are, does not realize who and what they actually are. So there is a fear within this. I don't want to be abnormal. I want to be normal because I don't want to be abnormal. I'm afraid of being abnormal. So there's still a fear here. There's still mind operating.
I understand the word normal in a different way. What exists is normal because it exists.
That was going to be my next question.
Okay.
You said, allow myself to feel fear. And I'm wondering, what does that mean? Allow myself to feel fear. Is it actually a feeling? What is fear? Can you answer that?
Fear is special sensations in the body.
Okay, good. Very good.
Certain pattern of sensations.
Okay.
In certain parts of the body.
Right. Okay, good. Because some people, it's a story. It's not, and that doesn't stop at feeling fear, which is just the sensations, but it goes, allow myself to feel fear of what? Of this, that, or the other. And that is now the mind. And so if it exists, if these sensations exist in the body, they exist.
Yeah.
We're not to deny that they're not here and they shouldn't be here. This is more fear. This fuels more fear, right? And the worst thing is to fear fear because that escalates it. And so, yes.
What I learned when I feel scared, if I direct my attention not on the story of which I'm scared, but on my sensations, and look at them very closely, they disappear. And fear stops.
If you leave the mind alone. But if you keep if you keep with the story of, oh, I feel this because of that, and this could happen, and that could happen, and you keep fueling it, right?
Yeah. This is how we can handle our fear.
Yes.
By refocusing attention on the sensations.
Right. So we need to take fear and divide it up between the physical sensation and the story. So is fear a story? Or is fear a physical sensation? Because if you stay with a story, you keep fueling the physical sensation. If you leave the story, come to your senses, be aware, then it will dissipate because you're no longer fueling it. So, and I make a difference between fear and adrenaline. So fear is a thought about something that hasn't happened. Whereas if something has happened, there may be adrenaline running through your body.
Yeah.
It's the physical, right? Adrenaline to get you ready to move, to protect the body. So if we recognize there's adrenaline in the body, but we don't tell a story about it, we don't keep thinking, then we don't keep fueling it. The adrenaline will come through, we'll feel it, and it will pass. Most people, though, don't do this separation. The story in the mind, they think is real, and they stay with it, and it keeps fueling it. And so when you say, allow myself to feel fear, I'm like, wait a minute, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the fear of something, which is the story in the mind, or are we talking about the direct experience, the sensations in the body right now?
Why I said so, allow myself to fear, because in the past, when I felt fear, I did not accept that.
Yes.
I thought,
yes,
I must not feel that. I am strong man. So I did not accept what I was feeling right then.
yes.
So
to not accept,
first,
to not accept is to go into the mind a story, right? Which you're going to feel that story now. And that story says, oh, I shouldn't have fear. I'm a strong man. There shouldn't be fear here. And this creates fear. And creates more problems. But you're a strong man because you can feel fear in the body and because you can leave the mind alone. That's what makes you strong. You do both. So this not allow myself is only dreaming. It's already here. You can't allow or disallow fear in the body. It's here.
Yes, but this not allowing aggravates my fear.
Yes.
I fear of something, and by not allowing it, it becomes worse.
Yes. Yes.
So
it will.
First step was allow to fear, and then separate the mind and sensations. And
how do you do this allow?
By saying, yes, I feel fear now. I feel, and fear locates in my chest. So it's this sort of dialogue with myself.
Okay, so the risk there for me is that you're having a dialogue with yourself means you're still moving the mind.
Yeah.
A risk there and it can be very hard when you're moving to mind to not move the mind. And now you have to be on guard for which thoughts I can accept and which ones I can't. And it's a very dangerous path. Whereas opposed to silent awareness of the fear in the body. Okay?
Yeah. I now understand, but in the past, this technique helped somewhat.
Yes. Well, even the idea of understanding, you don't need to be afraid of fear, and fearing fear itself is a problem. Yes, definitely. Yeah. I had the same thing when I had anxiety. I would be afraid of, I wake up in the middle of the night and my heart is pounding for no reason. I'm perfectly safe. And I was like, what's that? Generalized anxiety. And I started to fear that. What's wrong with me? Oh no, I shouldn't have that. And the tingling in the body and the sensations all over. It was when I realized, okay, here's what's going on. I'm having an anxiety attack. Okay. It's not going to kill me. They don't kill people. Knowing that, because I had stories, this is going to kill me. My heart's going to leap out of my chest.
Yeah.
Right? Knowing that, okay, no, it's not going to. And then the next instructions that I kept with me on a piece of paper. So whenever I had a panic attack, I would pull out this piece of paper because I would right away be hyperventilating. I pull out this paper. You're having an anxiety attack, right? It's not going to kill you, right? Okay. Do your breathing. I used to carry a paper bag with me that I breathe. If my hands were tingling, it was because there's too much oxygen to the brain.
Yeah.
So I would use a bag to breathe into, to bring that down, because I would use the tingling to go, what's wrong? There's something wrong. This is really bad. No, no. And so we brought it all down, and then controlled breathing from there, taking that breath and holding it at the top, holding it as long as you can. And then letting it out like through a straw. And then when it gets to the bottom, you hold it out on the bottom as long as you can. And then you take another one. And you hold it. And then again. And you do this a few times till everything calms down. This is bringing in the parasympathetic system instead of the sympathetic system, which is saying, we're good, we're calm, everything's good. And then continue breathing like that, but just through the nose now, holding it. Letting it slowly, holding it out, bringing everything down.
You know, I also had panic attacks when I was younger. And I discovered this technique with breathing myself, not reading any books.
Wow.
I discovered that if I attach my attention to breathing or sensations away from thoughts about what is going on with me.
Yes.
So panic attack goes away. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
I had panic attacks in metro when metro enters tunnel.
Oh yes, metro tunnel.
Tunnel. Yeah. And at this moment, I had panic attacks. I don't know why. So I switched my attention to breathing and normalized. Everything's become normal.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Good for you. You really were paying attention and doing experiments with your own body mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this made a world of difference. These panic attacks are like phobic responses that once they're established, and they happen for no reason. They happened originally because of a high emotional fear. Whether or not there was real danger doesn't matter. If there was a high fear for whatever reason, that's when we establish it. It gets put into our body like as a reaction, an automatic reaction to something we're not even aware of. Most people are not aware of anyway, their mind anyway. And so you'll be out, I was out in the grocery store, I'm buying groceries, all of a sudden, doom and gloom. I have to get out of the grocery store. I don't know why, there's nothing wrong with the grocery store, but I got to get out of the grocery store. That's when I knew something was wrong. And that's when I had started to research. So we can have a phobic response like that, a panic attack to anything. And it can happen anytime. It could be, bridges. We could develop a phobia of going over a bridge. Nothing bad ever happened on a bridge. But maybe one day, coming up to a bridge, there was some terrible mental movie that felt horrible and got, burned into our memory. And that fear is so powerful. Emotion is so powerful that it will make an automatic response now. Whenever you see a bridge, you have this fear come up. So that's what goes on.
I think that I know the cause of my panic attack in metro tunnel. When I was small, I frequently fainted. And it looked like everything became darker, and I am out.
I know that experience.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And
nearly had it once.
yeah, when the car enters tunnel, everything become darker. Very similar to
Yes.
that experience,
Yeah.
and I
There you
think
go.
that was a trigger.
Wow. Very likely. Very
Yeah,
likely. Yeah. Wow. It's so amazing that you have such conscious awareness of it. That's the mind matching, right?
yeah, yeah,
This meant that. Boom. Okay, now that means this. Woo. Wow. So
yeah,
important to know that. But most important, even if you don't know what's caused it, you don't have to know. You can reverse. You can reverse it, and that's what matters. For me, I didn't have anything happen in a grocery store, but I had a different trauma, a lot of anger come out. One day, it happened about 3 times in a row because of certain things that were going on. So you could have one event and it's established, or you could have multiple lesser events, less emotion events, and now we have one established. So, but it doesn't, like I say, it doesn't matter if it's one or many. What matters is reversing the association, gradually deconditioning and reversing. And I'm helping someone, I will be helping someone with that soon too. So good to hear the confirmation again.
yeah.
So you're okay with tunnels now?
Yeah, yeah. What I observed, which is interesting, when it becomes darker, my mind says that I am about to faint.
Yes.
I feel fear. It strengthens the feeling of fainting. So this is like self-sustaining process, self-strengthening process.
Yeah.
It must be cut off
Yes.
by directing attention to something else.
Exactly. Yeah. Interrupted, cut off, and
Yeah.
eventually it loses strength because of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Bravo. There's other things we can do too. There's some NLP techniques that work well with it. But yeah, that's enough to interrupt it. It must be done. You mustn't have ideas that it can't be done, that you can't do it, that something else did this to you. You can't have these ideas or you won't do it. You won't cut it off. Just like you can't have the ideas that it's normal or mandatory to feel pain or fear. You can't have those ideas that it's normal or mandatory or abnormal to not feel fear in order to go beyond fear.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you won't do it. You're authorizing that. You can only authorize one thing at a time. You're either authorizing a fear or something else, but you can't do both. On the webinar last night, someone said the word value. And yes, and it clicked, what you value. And I said, yes, value is your authority applied. So in the example of me, I valued keeping control of the car, right? That was the highest, most important thing to me. No other thoughts, nothing. That was my authority. Nothing is more important than this. So everything else shut down. This the most important. And when you start to have an anxiety, a fear on fear, if you know that you need to stop this and that's your authority, you're saying, I need to stop this, then you will interrupt when it starts. It's your authority again that does this.
Can we say that authority is the same as allowing something to be, which is not there?
So there's reality and there's authority.
Yeah.
Okay? And reality is as it is, no matter what. Okay.
Yeah.
But authority can make and the illusion appear that is not there. And so there's a reality, doesn't matter about your authority, but actually in the end, ultimately, your authority is yourself, is the reality. Okay, that's going in that direction. But when it goes in the other direction, an authority is given to a thought, right? That's what looks real. And that's what we will feel in the body mind. Okay. And when we take it out of the mind, then we just have reality. And reality, if you go far enough, is yourself.
So if some thought appears to me real, this means that I gave it my authority.
That's right.
Okay, or I got it.
You give it your authority and your sense of reality, so it looks real.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore we experience it powerfully. Yeah, well said. So when you say, I allow myself to feel fear, your authority is in there, which means that I'm not going to follow that thought that says I can't feel fear. I'm going to be still. It's your authority. Again, you're switching. It's like you're switching tracks. And reality is good and solid. It's a very solid place to land your authority. The mind, not so solid.
Yeah.
It could flip. It's not reliable. And when you realize the truth of yourself, this is also your authority.
Authority of myself.
Mm-hmm. So authority of yourself goes on a thought. I'm a person, I'm a man, I'm a this, I'm a that. Yeah. We remove that authority, no more authority there. And there is a reality of yourself.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter about your authority, right? But you don't see it because your authority is in the illusory mind.
Yeah.
You are in the mind. Mm-hmm. And so the reality is always here. It's always here. We were doing that just the other day, right?
Yeah.
And when you see the reality and it goes against the mind and the illusion, there's going to be a battle here. Where are you going to put your authority now? Are you going to keep it with the mind? Or are you going to acknowledge and recognize the reality? And that is self-realization.
Mm-hmm.
When you say, oh, this is me, not that. But this carries reality with it, which is a completely different experience that you'll have, as opposed to believing a thought about you. Oh yeah, I'm a kind of a person. I'm a kind of this, I'm a kind of that. These are all so weak, so pathetic. It's so illusory, so nothing. But when your authority, which is reality, lands on reality, that's the end of it.
Okay, before we are able to, as you say, lay authority on, to choose to lay authority on reality or on thoughts, we need to be able to distinguish reality and thoughts.
Yes, and that's the power of discernment.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And you are able.
Yeah.
Always able. It never goes away because this is who and what you are. Yeah. Whether you will do it or not. Okay. And this is why spiritual teachers, their job is to remove ignorance, false information, so that you can do this. When you have nothing left, when you have removed everything, and that's what their job is, to help you remove, right? You get nothing. When you come to nothing is left that you can defend your mental self with? What are you going to have to say? When you come to the point that there's nothing left that you can say, this is why I'm separate. This is why I am not that. When you come to that, there's no more arguments left, that they've all been disproven. This is why you have to ask questions to get rid of them all. Okay? When there's nothing left, what's going to happen? Can you continue to deny? Or are you going to have to admit?
Why is it so difficult to abandon our mental self? Because it is about survival.
Yes, it's not difficult. It's your own power against your own power.
Yeah.
Right? And that could look like a stalemate. And that's why you have to use reality. Because reality is the trump card, we could say. It's not going away. The mind can, you can agree with the mind, many different things, you can keep agreeing, but it doesn't affect reality, the truth, the fact of what you are. And yeah, it is a fear. It's a fear.
Yeah.
I've heard so many of them. I don't know what I'll be. Well, that fear to me is completely useless because you already are that. You don't need to know what you will be. You already are that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So other fears like I won't be able to function. How can the ultimate that there is be not able to function? These are all examples of you plus a thought that you authorize and you wear it now like it's what you are. This me who's afraid of something that doesn't exist, that hasn't happened, that isn't real, when the reality is here all the time and it's not scary. You are already that. You are already what you are. So it's because of association with mind and belief in mind and your authority put in the mind. We need to cut this out. So you start to have experiences of yourself without the mind.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, it's actually quite nice. I quite like it. The stillness, you must fall in love with this stillness.
I had glimpses of this stillness, and they are now like anchor.
Yes. Wonderful. Yes. Wonderful word. That's what I had too. It was an anchor. I just always wanted to go back to it again and again and again and again and again.
I appreciate our chats because they are so deep, so deep. Okay, Cindy, thank you again so much.
See you.
See you.